The Hog Sty is brought to you by TicketClub.com, your one-stop shop for live events nationwide. Whether you're looking for game, theater, or live performance tickets, don't sweat it. TicketClub.com has you covered. So make sure you're going there for all your live entertainment needs, and make sure you're clicking over to them from the banner at the top of thehogsty.com.
By fans, for fans, the Hog Style. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Banners of anger were flying high above the stadium, and Redskins fans were in paper bags on their heads. But something special happened today. The Redskins were actually able to get a win on the field, holding on to a final score of 17-16, a massacre of the Miami Dolphins, by Redskins standards anyway. This is Alex, with me, Steve and Jamal. Guys, what are you going to do to celebrate this triumph?
Oh man, I'm going to go party like I never have before. Of course, my bar is so low that entails like an extra sun kiss at dinner or something maybe. That's about as far as
Blow a slide whistle?
Yeah, that's about as far as I ever go for partying. But listen, I'm very happy, okay? I don't care. For those of you who are rooting for 0-16 and blah, 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 I don't care. I just want the Redskins to win. We'll worry about off-season and off-season. Let's just get a W. That's the way I feel about it. So I'm very happy. No matter how they got it, by hook or by crook, they got a W, and that's all that matters.
Look, I'm going to celebrate by eating some good food. I may get some lasagna today. I don't know. I'm not cooking it, of course, but then tomorrow, Hooters have the 15 all-you-can-eat special. $15 all-you-can-eat wings. I may celebrate and go and eat like 30 wings tomorrow, which is actually the normal, but I won't tell nobody that.
Yeah, I think I was out watching the baseball game last night, and I had about 20 wings.
Yeah,
so.
I wish I was able to watch it. I was actually at Morgan State homecoming, so I wasn't around the TV, but I was keeping track of the score. And surprisingly, they took a quick 2-0 lead, which is really good. So I'm hoping they could pull it off. Next game is tomorrow, right?
How was your homecoming?
The homecoming was really good for the most part. I mean, I got there towards the tail end, which is after the game, but it was still pretty entertaining. At that point, you're just walking around on campus and going to different areas of the campus and listening to music, catching up with some good people, and meeting some people and stuff like that. So it was still good.
Kanye West didn't show up to yours though, like he did at Howard.
We did have a special guest, but. On the likes of Mia Khalifa, I think that's her name. Not exactly her.
Star?
Yeah, it was somebody else that's pretty famous in Baltimore. But yeah, I'm about to say that's as close as it got to any type of celebrity.
That still sounds like fun.
But it was good for the most part.
All right, well, let's get into this Redskins game because that's why we're here after all. I don't know if you guys want to start with the offense, which kind of looked competent at times, or the defense that at least dominated the first three quarters.
No, let's definitely start with the offense.
You want to start with the offense? Okay, that sounds fun.
Look, here's the thing. Bill Callahan told everybody on Monday afternoon, exactly what he was going to do, and lo and behold,
I'm going to run the ball.
He
said that.
He actually did that. 33 carries. Normally it's not necessarily a good thing if you tell the other team what you're going to do, but it worked, this time. Let's do the stats real fast.
Let's do full stats, not just 33 carries.
All right. Case Keenum was 13 for 25, 166 yards, 2 touchdowns, no sacks, and no interceptions. So his quarterback rating was pretty decent, 99.8, despite, I think we can all agree, he had a poor game. Adrian Peterson got his first 100-yard game of the season. He was 23 for 118 yards, 5.1 yards per attempt. Chris Thompson was 3 for 12. Case Keenum, 4 for 10. Wendell Smallwood got a carry for 4 yards. Steven Sims had the one jet sweep reverse thing. Wasn't a reverse, but anyway, he was 1 for 1. We'll get into that. And then Paul Richardson had the one flat pass in the backfield that is technically called a carry, so he was 1 for 0. Terry McLaurin was a big star on the receiving corps. He was 4 for 100, 2 touchdowns. Jeremy Sprinkle, 2 for 24. Adrian Peterson, 2 for 18. Kelvin Harmon, 1 for 8. Chris Thompson, 2 for 8. Drake Quinn, 2 for 8. On the Dolphins side of the field, Josh Rosen played about roughly the first 3 quarters of the game. He was 15 for 25 for all of 85 yards, 2 interceptions, 5 sacks, 32.9 quarterback rating. Yuck. Ryan Fitzpatrick took over, was 12 for 18, 132 yards, 106.7 quarterback rating. Kenyon Drake was the leading rusher, 10 for 40. Mark Walton, 6 for 32. Mike Gesicki, the tight end, who would have thought that, was their leading receiver at 3 receptions, 51 yards. Mark Walton was 5 for 43. Preston Williams, 2 for 31. Kenyon Drake, 6 for 30, and it goes down from there. On defense, the Redskins eked out 5 sacks, 4 of them in the first quarter. Yeah. Good for them.
Could have been 6 if one of them hadn't been called for a ticky-tack helmet.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Landon Collins got a sack. Trevon Hester got 1. Jonathan Allen got 2. Matt Ioannidis got 1. That is the 5 sacks. Landon Collins, as usual, was the leading tackler on the day. 12 tackles, 10 solo tackles. And interception-wise, Quentin Dunbar got 1. Deion Hamilton got 1. And, as always, has become my habit, Tress Way, 7 punts, 315 yards. So, yet again,
a quiet day for Tress Way.
Yeah, a little bit. Last week, he had 500 yards punting, so it was kind of a quiet day. He still came close to – he still out-punted the entire Redskins offense.
Yes.
So, I mean, God help us, if we do that. But that's stats for the day, kids.
Yeah. And, of course, the big stat, like we said at the beginning, 17-16 final score. All right, let's get into that offense, and I want to start talking about Case Keenum because you're playing the worst defense in the league, and you put up what I would call below-average backup quarterback numbers in terms of completion percentage, yardage, 2 big touchdowns to McLaurin, but really without Scary Terry out there, we're talking about a very bad day for this passing game.
I thought he was terrible. Overall, I mean, especially early on in the game, he was holding the ball too long. He wasn't seeing the field well. I counted what I called 5 bad throws. I counted 5 of them. I didn't think he looked very good at all. I certainly think probably Dwayne Haskins could have put up about that level of game, for the record, as did Case. So, granted, he hadn't played in 2 weeks, but still, this was by far the worst defense in the league, and it's not close. They're terrible, and Case made him look pretty good at times.
He did. And now, some of this I will give the Dolphins credit. They were rushing 8-9 guys a lot at him, and our line was not holding up. So I will give him a little bit of a pass on the pressure side of it, but still, if they're bringing that many, there should be somebody you can dump it off to.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, they didn't sack him once. He just had a bad day. No. He's a better quarterback than that. I don't think Case Keenum is that awful. I think he just kind of had a bad day to me.
Yeah, I kind of think it was that. It was a few times where it was some decisions that he made. It made me feel like he was flustered in a sense. It wasn't necessarily anybody.
He definitely
it wasn't necessarily the play of anyone around him, but more so decisions that he made. You're just trying to figure out why would he one of the plays that should have been a pick towards the end of towards the deep into Miami's territory, or excuse me, in Redskins territory, where he threw in to literally 2 Dolphins players trying to make a play out of nothing instead of throwing the ball away. It was kind of plays like that happened in the second half that I noticed a few times where you're just wondering, why is he making these boneheaded decisions as opposed to being a smart quarterback that's a veteran and making the same decisions that Rosen is doing. It just doesn't add up. So, bad game.
Are you talking about when he was almost sacked in his own end zone and threw it away?
Well, he tried. He tried to. I don't know what he was doing because he didn't throw it away. he threw it to 2 defenders.
No one knew what he was doing.
And it happened a few times in the second half. Not literally like that, but you just had those things where you're just scratching your head what the hell is he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was feeding my fish there for a minute. If you heard that noise. Yeah. Listen. I think he'll be better. We've seen Case Keenum better. He's really, frankly, pretty lucky that this is the Dolphins and not a good team, because I think the result would have been dramatically different if he'd played this way against, the Eagles or something. For sure.
I mean, forget the Eagles. If we were playing this way against like the Bengals or even like just a below average team, we'd be in trouble.
Right. Now, I think the far bigger story than that to me is the play calling. Adrian Peterson, not only did he have 23 carries. Somebody asked us at the beginning of this game if we could keep track of the type of runs that we did. And I thought, gosh, this is going to be tough to do. But it turns out it wasn't very tough to do, because by my count, all but one or maybe two, I kind of lost count there, of AP's runs were out of the I formation. I'm talking all of them, but I can think of one that wasn't.
Single back, you mean, not I form.
No, that's an I. Single back, deep. All of them but one. Maybe.
I don't know. To me, I means you have a fullback behind you.
That is the type of thing that AP loves. That's what Jay Gruden never really did for him. Because it wasn't. Actually, to be honest with you, I think if Jay Gruden was a coach, the Redskins would have lost this game. I really think Bill Callahan's game plan won this game for him, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I'll let you finish. Just a quick thing. I just feel like they still had, 17 points.
Yeah.
As good as that game plan was, I just don't have that much faith in it. If it was a slightly better team they went up against.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying the Redskins are a good team. They're not a good team. All my point is I think Jay would have given up on the run game in about in the first quarter when, listen, they started slow, running wise. I think Jay would have thrown in the towel at that point and gone with another game plan like he tends to do, and I think this game would have been totally different. So in that regard, well done, Bill Callahan. This won't work against everybody. It's the Dolphins again.
No, it won't work against most teams.
Well, no, I mean, if you can establish the run and do well, you're generally going to win games. I mean, I believe that. I just don't think this team is good enough to do it.
I don't. I think most teams would have, those runs AP was bouncing to the outside. Most teams would have tracked him down for, 5 yards maybe, but not the 20 or 15 yards that he was getting at times.
I'm a believer in Bill Callahan's style of football. If he can do this every week, they'll at least be in the games. That's my point. And, I'm not saying, he's a better coach, a worse coach, anything. I'm saying that I think Bill Callahan's game plan today, October 13th, made a difference. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I don't disagree, but largely I saw a lot of the same types of plays we've been running before. Yeah, there was a different balance, but it was a lot of jumbo set. It was a lot of, run it up the middle. Maybe AP can bounce it outside, maybe not. It was a lot of, throwing to receivers who are 3 yards behind the first down. I didn't see anything very different in how they kind of plays.
Well, the thing with me is not necessarily what was so extravagant about this game plan today. I feel like they were doing the same thing when Alex Smith was at quarterback. It can very much be the same way. Like Alex Smith Adrian Peterson was getting a lot of. He was a priority in this offense last year, and everybody knows that. Even when Alex Smith went down, they made sure to. Well, he did get carried away with Colt McCoy, but excluding Colt McCoy, Adrian Peterson was a priority in this offense. And I feel like after one game, and this isn't necessarily directed at Steve himself, but I think after one game, the Redskins coaching staff and front office is going to make a big deal about what Callahan did. But truth be told, this happened last year. So I think we just need to see more and see if they're really going to stick to what they're talking about.
One of the faults that I think we can all agree on is that Jay Gruden consistently gave up on the run game too early in these games. And he would always admit it after the game. He'd always say we need to, do more, a better emphasis on the run. And all my point is that Bill Callahan actually did it. He actually did it. And, yeah, it's the Dolphins and blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, it was good to see a dedication to that run game again. And it was good to see the Redskins run plays that are geared towards what Adrian Peterson does well. I mean, ultimately, that made a difference. That's my point.
I mean, I agree. Running out of a 3 tight end set is better for Adrian Peterson. It's still not I form. I don't know why you guys keep thinking that's I form.
That's what I call I form.
That's called single back.
I always call that an I formation. Okay, sue me. But the point is, what Adrian Peterson likes is getting the ball deep.
Yes.
And he does not like these pitches, out of the shot. He doesn't do that, and Jay did that a lot. And so you gear the game towards him, he's going to do better. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
The other thing about this game is that, Terry McLaurin continues to impress. Obviously, that's not like insight. I mean, he had 100 yards.
He was the passing offense.
Yeah, he was the entire passing offense just about. He's such a great route runner. I don't think anybody really knew that he was that good a route runner. That post-corner route he ran for the first touchdown, what a route, He looks like a seasoned vet to me.
It's not just that he's good at running routes, it's that he's got an ability to break at the right time to make a defender lose him. He knows when to make that, shift into the next gear to lose the guy.
Yeah, but he does.
That first touchdown where he kind of just did like a kind of arcing curved outward towards the end and the defender fell down he did it perfectly,
Yeah, I mean, he's really precise. He knows how to create space. He just is a really good receiver. What can you say? And the other thing,
I wish we had another guy like that.
Yeah, Paul Richardson,
that's what I can say.
4 targets, 0 catches, 0 yards.
Right.
I mean, come on. I think we've all been worried about Paul Richardson, and he's done nothing this year.
Excuse me, did you say 4 catches and 0 yards, or did you say 4 targets?
I said catches, but 4 targets.
Oh, no, I was about to say that's incredibly sad.
4 targets,
4 catches,
0 catches, 0 yards. That's what I was trying to say if I didn't say
Now, are you counting the ones that Case just completely overthrew him too?
Listen, it's 4 targets, 0 catches.
Okay.
What can you say?
Sometimes people don't count it if the ball's 20 yards over your head.
Well, I wouldn't count it as a drop. But it is a target.
Okay.
There's a difference. There's a drop and a target. I don't know. We've all been worried about him forever. I didn't really much like the signing, in the first place. But,
right.
I think, we all pretty much predicted this kind of score. I think we all predicted. I think you predicted 17 right on the nose, Alex.
I said 17-7.
Yeah,
that's
but you hit the 17. I can't remember what I predicted.
Sure.
I think I predicted 20 or something. I can't remember.
None of us were very high.
Yeah, we pretty much hit it offense-wise. I think, although despite that, I think it's a little disappointing that you didn't see more efficiency given the defense. The Dolphins' defense looked a lot better against the Redskins than they have all year, which that ought to be no surprise, of course. But they did.
Well, the thing that concerns me, and even though we saw Adrian Peterson had a good running day overall, is the offensive line in the run blocking. Like when it came down to, we need 2 yards, you couldn't trust them for 2 yards. That's when you need to be able to say, just get behind Brandon Sheriff and Chase and just, gut out 2 yards. And they can't do it. Even our best linemen are kind of just getting stood up at the line of scrimmage. Most of Peterson's big plays came from bouncing it outside, or there was one hole that he could find. You didn't see many of those power kind of runs where it's just the offensive line is pushing people around.
They're not good enough.
And versus the Dolphins, that's a little concerning.
They're not good enough.
No.
So, anyway, look, it worked. 17 points today is a victory. Most other days it would not be. They've scored more than that and lost this year. So against good teams like the 49ers and the Buffalo Bills and, coming up, they're going to have to do better. But today,
right.
Hey, listen, let's revel in victory for once. They aren't the worst.
Yeah, and
they're second worst.
All right, well,
we're 31. We're 31.
I saw some people tweeting out we're 31 today. All right, let's switch sides to the defense. Defense looked really, really good against Josh Rosen, which I don't know if that's saying anything, but they were getting a lot of pressure. You said 5 sacks. Let's talk about that 6th sack that should have been. on the helmet-to-helmet call. I just can't stand that that's a penalty now in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean,
he wasn't leading with his head.
I was on Twitter today, and I called that a pansy call. Because I realize, Mark Bullock, if you're listening, by the letter of the rule, it's a penalty. That was never my point. My point is, it was incidental contact at best. I don't know what else he's supposed to do. It looked to me, I could be wrong, but it looked to me that he kind of pulled up just a tiny bit because he was afraid to hit him, and which is why he ended up a little high. But I just don't care if it's a little high. I'm sorry, and yes, I would say the same thing if it was against Case Keenum. I just really, really, really hate the fact that the NFL has turned this game. They're so afraid of contact nowadays. We're just so afraid of it. I mean, every time somebody breathes on a helmet should not be a penalty. I didn't have anything against what Ryan Anderson did. I realize, yes, by the letter of the rule, it was a penalty, but I strongly disagree with it.
I mean, here's the thing. Helmet-to-helmet used to mean that helmets were the first part of the body to come into contact, right? And in this case, he's got his arms around him, and then his helmet hits him. And, what are you going to do? Two people are around the same height. Their helmets are probably going to touch.
Well, I think one of the things that, and even I think it was Rondé Barber alluded to it earlier on it wasn't a roughing the passer, but an unnecessary roughness hit on one of the receivers. He kind of alluded to it, and I kind of always felt this way. The referees kind of overreact to what they see on the field, like how it transpires, like the what's the word? I guess the nature of the hit itself, and not like what happened, because it could be a shoulder to shoulder hit,
right,
or something like that, or a shoulder to the body hit, but because of how the person who got hit, reacts to the hit, or how they takes the hit, and it looks nasty, or it looks very rough. It can be misconstrued or misconceived as an unnecessary.
They're going to call that a flag every time
hit and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how these refs operate, and something like that, where the helmet to helmet thing is kind of more so a judgment call in a sense, because you have to judge well, I don't know if they necessarily judge intent or not on those things. I can't remember.
I don't think they do anymore.
Yeah, so it's like you have to just, if it's helmet to helmet, they're just going to call it regardless.
Yeah.
And clearly the intent is not being factored in the way they call them. So it is what it is. It sucks. I agree. It is what it is.
I hate it because the way I watch football, I see things and now I'm just like, oh, they're going to flag this. I know and then they don't. And I'm happy, but like when Josh Norman pushed the tight end after he dropped the ball in the end zone at one point, I was convinced that was going to get a flag because he pushed him.
Yeah. Listen, I think it's been an abnormally bad year for the NFL officials just generally. They've called a really awful, bunch of calls, I think. But like big picture wise, Redskins defense, what did we learn today? I mean, we learned, number one, that the Miami offensive line is just atrocious. They did blitz a lot in the first half. But a lot of it was more just like the offensive line really stinks, and they got a lot of penetration. The second half of this game looked a little bit more like a traditional Greg Minuski game. They didn't blitz quite as much. They didn't get very much pressure. What I thought was different today is they played a lot more cover 2 than – I didn't keep track of this or anything, but it looked to me like they were playing a lot more cover 2 than they usually do. With the 2 deep safeties. I saw a lot of that today. And as a matter of fact, they were playing cover 2 on the first Fitzpatrick drive where he scored the touchdown. There was a lot of cover 2 there. When you play cover 2, you're going to get a lot of this underneath stuff, which is what he was doing.
Speaking of, it seemed very interesting to me that as soon as Fitzpatrick came in, we kind of reverted right back to the old Greg Minuski, don't blitz. Josh Norman's playing 10 yards off his guy every play. Soft coverage is kind of zone defense. Whereas before that, they were treating, the Josh Rosen-led Dolphins like a scrimmage and just blitzing him and doing all sorts of crazy things. Corners were playing much tighter. It really seemed like as soon as Fitzpatrick went in, Minuski was backing off quite a lot.
Well, a key to this game was to keep Josh Rosen off balance.
Sure.
That was a critical part of this game, and they did that early. They got him off balance because this dude.
I think they did it the whole game.
I feel really bad for Josh Rosen. He's been. I do think he has talent. I always have, but he's just been put in just so awful situations. I mean, and yes, Fitzpatrick managed it better as he should. He's an experienced veteran. But make no mistake, that Miami offensive line is just atrocious. This is the first game that I've seen that the Redskins defensive line looked like what they were supposed to look like all year, and it came against the Dolphins. So I don't know how much we want to read into that, but it was certainly their best game.
Yeah, that's rough.
It is. It's a little rough.
I agree, Steve, because it was really like consistent pressure throughout the day. And truth be told, you kind of got that against Brady for the most part too. The difference was just he got the ball out when there was no pressure. He got the ball out in less than like 2 seconds because his decisions were made. But in terms of just dominating up front, the last 2 games were pretty good for the Redskins.
That's a good point. And Josh Rosen just held the ball and held the ball and held the ball forever. And that's what caused a lot of those. At least some of those sacks. Run defense, this is obviously a get-well game to a certain extent, for the Redskins' run defense. They only gave up 84 yards, which for the Redskins is really good, all things considered.
Well,
yeah.
So it's 84 yards on conventional runs, but I know the running back did a lot of damage in the screen game. Can you go over that number again? I can't remember what you said that was.
Well, Mark Walton had 5 receptions for 43 yards. I think all of those were probably screens.
Sure.
And then Kenyon Drake had another 6 receptions for 30 yards. So assuming all of those were screens, which they probably were, that's 73 yards.
So almost their running backs, half their yards comes in that and half roughly.
It did today because, the quarterback had no time. And, either that, and he wasn't good enough to create and get the ball out, all that stuff. And what do you do when your quarterback's having a rough day? You run a lot and you throw some screens,
Well, some teams actually game plan around that whole concept. But, yes, in this case, they were more just trying to get rid of the ball.
Oh, somebody else, by the way, I meant to mention this before. Somebody else asked us to track first down runs versus first down passes. I tried. The number is going to be wrong, so I'm not even going to read the number because I kind of lost track. This was really hard to keep up with. But roughly, it was about a 3-to-1 ratio. Okay, a little bit more than 3-to-1. Yeah, meaning the play calls on first down versus the play calls. I'm saying this poorly. The Redskins ran the ball roughly about 3 times more on first down than they passed. That's what I'm trying to say. It was a little bit more.
Gotcha.
Than that. For that person who asked, I tried. I'm not going to read the numbers because, again, I kind of lost it at the end of the game. But there you go. That was that. But anyway, in terms of the rest of the defense, I don't know if we really learned too much about this defense from this game, except that the Dolphins are just horrible. When they put a competent quarterback in there, it was a different thing. But again,
they started slicing us up.
Well, I think, Alex, you were right. I mean, they sort of stopped. They didn't really blitz too much when Fitzpatrick was in there. And for that matter, really, I thought in the second half of the third quarter either. They kind of stopped and got away from it a little bit. And Fitzy is just a much better quarterback at this point than Rosen. So
I've always kind of liked Fitzpatrick. I know he's not elite quarterback or even like an average level starter, but I just respect a guy his age who's still trying to get it done.
I think he's kind of the second coming of Rex Grossman.
Yeah, he kind of has that vibe.
Yeah.
Except he's in better shape.
Just like screw it, throw it deep. That's kind of Fitzpatrick.
Yeah. But one thing that the one thing that I think this game definitely showed you, if you were doubting this at all, Quentin Dunbar is clearly our best cornerback at this point, and it's not close. I
don't know what's wrong with Josh Norman, to be honest. The past 2 years, he just hasn't looked like himself. I can accept that he's a little slower, but that's not really what it is. He just hasn't really played well. And there was a time when he was really, really good. And
I don't know what it is either.
There was a time when he was really good, and I don't think it's really physical. I think it's something else,
Psychological?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess.
Maybe he's staying in too many fancy hotel rooms?
first of all, in answer to that question, number one, we don't know if that was his hotel room or not, or what that was.
I know.
But I will say this: that can be written into contracts. That this player gets, a suite, a room by himself. Blah blah blah.
We should probably put this in context. Somebody tweeted out earlier before the game, that Josh Norman and who was the other one, the rookie?
Greg Stroman, wasn't it, or was it Jimmy Moreland?
No, Jimmy Moreland tweeted out pictures of their hotel rooms in Miami, and Jimmy's in like a decent-looking hotel, nothing terrible, any Holiday Inn would look like this kind of thing. And Josh Moreland's in like a penthouse luxury suite with like glass floors and leather chairs and everything, and like a view of the beach.
He may have it in his contract that the Redskins provide him a suite.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. But I thought that was pretty funny. But what else on defense? I agree with you. Listen, Quentin Dunbar has outperformed Josh Norman by a lot this year. What can you say about it? I thought Landon Collins had a really good game.
He did. He was flying all over the place, man.
Yeah, he looked a lot better in coverage, today. He's had his moments in coverage, but I don't think that's necessarily the best part of his game. But today he certainly looked very good. I thought John Bostic had a decent game. We've seen a lot of John Bostic busts, this year, but he didn't really have one this year. Ryan.
The only guy who didn't have a good game that I kind of was hoping would have been Kerrigan. He didn't really do anything today.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Is Ryan Kerrigan a
slow game? Well, what's new with Ryan Kerrigan?
He had a baby.
Ryan Kerrigan didn't have a baby.
I don't see anything. I don't see anything going on that's different with Kerrigan. But to your point, though, I kind of would have expected, the front seven collectively to play really good. But yeah, Kerrigan is pretty much being very consistent with how his seasons went.
Maybe they just washed up.
He's not very. Maybe. I'm totally not. I'm completely not surprised. I've been telling everybody how I feel about Ryan Kerrigan for years now. So if it took this long,
I kind of agree with you, Jamal. I've always said sort of he's kind of in my eyes kind of a B plus level rusher because he's been inconsistent and he kind of fades and he'll probably have a game where he gets 3 sacks this year. And he'll probably end up with like 8 or 9 sacks by the end of the season, like he always does. But it just seems like he's been less effective this year. That's all. So I agree with what I think you were trying to say there, Jamal.
Yeah, and the rest of the line did have a good day overall.
Well, yeah, again, all this shows we knew going into this that the Dolphins' offensive line was just terrible. There was no redeeming qualities whatsoever to that offensive line, and they proved it.
Yep.
They absolutely 100% proved it.
Okay, guys, why don't we we're about at that time of the end of the show, so I want to get to game balls here. Steve, do you want to go first or do you want to go last?
No, I'll go. Okay, my offensive game ball is definitely Adrian Peterson. 118 yards, over 5 yards a carry. He looked like himself. The team used him effectively. Bill Callahan really used him effectively like Jay just hasn't done this year. So he definitely gets my offensive game ball. Terry McLaurin had another good game, but, I think today was AP's day. On defense, it's a little tougher because a lot of guys had a good game, but I think the defensive line generally is what made the difference, and I'm going to give it to Jonathan Allen because he had 2 sacks. Because we really haven't had an opportunity to praise the defensive line too much this year because they've been bad. But today they weren't. And so John Allen is the leader of that group, and he had 2 sacks. So he gets my game ball, defensive game ball.
Okay. Jamal, are you still boycotting giving game balls, or now that we've won one, are you going to give a game ball?
For the sake of just the very first victory, I can participate in this. This type of celebration. So yes, I'll go ahead and give a game ball to what's his name, Terry McLaurin, offensively, for obvious reasons. He's continued to show that he's even better than the 3rd round selection, but we found him at the right time in the draft. And he's continuously outperforming his competitors, his defensive backs, whoever's going up against him. And I don't remember a time, and I could be wrong because I haven't had a lot of chance this season to look at any film, but I don't remember a time where Terry McLaurin really lost in a matchup on a given Sunday. I don't remember it. So offensively, Terry McLaurin. Defensively, I'm going to go Jonathan Allen as well. You can really give it to Jonathan Allen, Tim Settle. You can give it to, what's his name, Matt Ioannidis. You give it to a SI linebacker, but I'm just going to go ahead and stick with that guy because all those guys, they just pretty much outperformed everybody, and I just got to be a little bit I just got to give it to him. So.
All right, that's fine. And I'm going to agree with you, Jamal. Terry McLaurin is my pick. 2 touchdowns. He's on pace right now to score a touchdown a game, which I don't think is going to happen. But he's 5 in 5 games or something or 5 in 6 games, I guess. So he could definitely. I think he'll get to double digits at least before the end of the year.
I mean, look out. He's certainly in contention right now.
He could definitely get that. I just think with our team being as bad as it is, that's going to hurt him.
Hold him back ultimately.
Yeah, which is stupid for an individual award.
But none of these quarterbacks are doing gangbusters. These are quarterbacks.
And that's usually who gets it too, is a quarterback or a running back. All right, on defense, like you guys said, a lot of guys. Henderson got his first interception, right?
Henderson?
Or no, not Henderson.
You're talking about Sean Dion Hamilton got his first.
Hamilton. Yeah. I don't know why I thought Henderson.
Yeah, I'm thinking Henderson isn't probably going to get an interception this
year. No, he's been retired for a long time. Hamilton. I think since it's rare to see a linebacker get a pick, I'm going to give it to him.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I'm calling him, and he's been pretty much absent all year. This is the first time he's really showed up. And I'd like to give Bill Callahan a celebratory butt slap. For a job well done.
Just a nice firm pat on behind.
Yeah. I mean, job well done. You had a massively chaotic week. I'm sure it couldn't have been easy. I wish you hadn't given your game plan away on Monday, but it worked and you got a victory. And there was one of the beat reporters, Les Carpenter, as a matter of fact, reported that there was whooping and hollering in the locker room after the game. Redskins locker room. So
they got a big monkey off their back here. So.
Yeah, they did. They really did. So
yeah. I might not give him a butt slap. I'm going to give him a nice hair tussle or something. He has very tussly hair, it looks like. So I'll go with that.
All right. And finally, I haven't seen anybody else report this, so we'll mention it here.
Sure.
We reported that Jordan Reed is selling his house. And if you think about the timeline of what happened here, the other thing is we were told that the Redskins airplane that was up in Pittsburgh, that everybody was speculating what that was. It was out on Twitter and everything. I'm told that was Jordan Reed in Redskins 1 going to see a specialist. And it's not an accident that the day after that happened, they put him on IR. And then right around that time, now his house is being sold. Because we reported that he was selling his house, and the house was listed this week. And so you put all of that together, I think he probably got bad news, and I just have to think, think we've probably seen the last of Jordan Reed in NFL football. Hate to say it, but
that is a shame. You got to do what's best for your health in the end, and best of luck to him, whatever he does after football. If this is the end.
Last part about him seeing the specialist in Pittsburgh, that
right?
That's just don't know, but. If all that's true, he sounds like he got bad news. They IR'd him. He's moving. Sounds like he may be moving on to the next phase of his life. And if that's the case, best of luck to him.
Yep. It's kind of a sad note to end it on, but, it was a 1-point win versus the worst team in the history of the league.
Hey, you know what? So close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. And
I know.
Last I checked, a win
W's a W. Yep. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. And I know it's been a rough couple of weeks, so, let's celebrate good times here. We won versus the Dolphins, so cheer and go out and get drunk or whatever you're going to do.
Just pretend that Kool and the Gang Celebration is playing right now. We can't play it because we're going to get a copyright hit on it, but just pretend. Or maybe we can sing it. Okay, Alex, start. Go.
Celebrate.
Okay, stop. Never mind.
All right.
It's time to log
All
off,
right.
fellas.
Yes, let's log off. If I'm singing Kool and the Gang, it's time to end this show. So everyone go out there, hug your family, and have a good night.
On Is It Philosophy, we are not going to explore the philosophers of times long forgotten. We're not going to ponder Plato or Socrates. There's so many podcasts out there for that, if that's what you're seeking. This is something different. A place where all ideas are welcome. An open forum to talk about anything and everything. We take an idea and work to find an answer. It may not be the most insightful. Hell, it may not even be an answer at all. So come and listen with an open mind. Who knows, you may like what we have to say. If not, at least we've given you something to think about. So come and enjoy and ask yourself, is it philosophy?